What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be checking out the DC Collectibles Batman Arkham Knight. This is set 15, and this is Batgirl and Oracle. To figure out how tall they are, we're going to go ahead and take the tape measure. We'll first do it with Batgirl, who stands at roughly 7 inches. I'm not actually including the display stand, and funny enough, nor did DC Collectibles. The stand here, I included myself. But the figure stands at 7 inches in height. Oracle's a little trickier, however, because, well, she doesn't have the means to stand, both literally and figuratively. So the figure itself is only about... Well, we put the tape measure next to her. She's about 5 1/4 inches. She would be a lot taller, granted, if she could actually stand. And sadly, that's not the case. The figures come with a fair share of accessories. It comes with a backpack with a non-removable water bottle and some books in place there. The knapsack is rather on the flat side. It doesn't look like it could be housed around the figure's arms. I suppose you could probably have the hands being the hand holding on to the backpack, but it is definitely on the flat side. Also comes with a headphone that you could put around, I'm guessing, Oracle's head. Little stars on either side, and the interior of the earbuds, or the earphones, painted in black. It's a softer plastic, so it makes things a little bit easier to put around the head. Then you get a Batarang, based on the design of the Batman Arkham Knight Batarang. There's a nice silver on the edges there. Not as fragile as I was thinking it was going to be. And then you get a series of interchangeable hands, more so for Batgirl than for Oracle. Batgirl, default out of the packaging, comes with closed fists, but she also comes with a pair of relaxed hands. And she also comes with a pair of gripping hands, or specifically the Batarang. So those are your accessories that come included with the two figures. Why don't we're going to look, I think we're going to look at Batgirl first. I'm going to take off the stand that, no, it does not come included with the figure. I brought that in myself. Let's have a look at Arkham Knight Batgirl. For the most part, not a terrible figure, but I have to admit that the head sculpt is atrocious. I think the body somewhat saves it, but I've mentioned this in a couple of videos. If you got a poor head sculpt, it's really hard to come back just with the body being a decent looking figure. I guess this would be the equivalent of a butterface. The face, like I said, is... I want to find positive merits with this particular head sculpt, and unfortunately, any which way that I try, I can't do it. Rhyming off the very long list of negatives about this particular figure, and even just looking at the head sculpt, the negatives will include, for starters, the cowl ear is slightly bent. I can't control that, that's just the way it was packaged. But from aesthetically looking at it, the head sculpt looks poofy. She looks very swollen. The coloring, and it looks also more apparent on Oracle there, but the skin tone, it almost has a chalky translucency to it, and you can't, if I ran my finger to the side of it, it's not like you're going to see my finger through the face, but it's almost got like an opaque, or almost close to an opaque, but it almost seems as if you can almost look through it. Like if you had light shining behind it, you'd be able to see through her face. The head sculpt is ugly. She has no facial expression whatsoever. It almost seems like she's about to cry. I don't know what she's crying about. Maybe she saw what she looks like in the mirror. Like I said, the figure. Try as I might to find positives about it, I really do not like this head sculpt. The eyes are salvageable, but then I don't know what... like, if I go just like this, the head sculpt isn't terrible. But the rest of the face, it's really long, it's really wide, it's overly poofy, And it looks like the plastic that they used almost has like a chalkiness to it. And that's not even with paint. It almost seems like it's made out of porcelain. Okay, so maybe some positives. The hair is not terrible, but you're not necessarily going to be displaying the figure from the back. Maybe you are, I don't know. The hair is not terrible though. It's of a softer plastic. It doesn't, even like the hair, as nice as the sculpt may be, I feel they just ruin it with a poor paint. The oranges mixed with this almost dingy yellow just doesn't come together to be a very well-presented color scheme for the hair. Dare I almost say that maybe it's a case where the head sculpt isn't terrible, it's just the way that it was painted. Like if it was painted a little bit better, maybe it wouldn't be terribly bad. Like her nose is very large. Even like the side profile, she doesn't reflect well. And it seems as if her head's too big for her body. Almost forfeiting a neck. The neck is there, but it's deep in there. It's almost barely able to see. Yeah, I don't like the head sculpt. The body is not terrible, although it's a little on the bland side. There's no additional colors, so you're really only going with the molding of the plastic, which is black, and then some gold paint over top of it. But there's gold paint on the arms, the gloves, and the feet, but there's nothing additional to that. It's one coat of paint, or one layer of paint, and let's call it a day. To the credit of it, the metallic gold is nice looking, but it just makes for such a boring figure because it doesn't even have any sort of additional shading to it. Some additional off-coloring, maybe of a blue or slightly a shinier black or something different to add to an otherwise nice-looking sculpt on the body. But it gets so lost because there's no additional paint being added to the mix. The boots are decent enough, but again, just metallic gold and nothing else. Gold and black and nothing else. The cape on the back is decent enough. You've got a little bit of extra texturing and detailing there as well. I love how the gold carries itself off from the inside and makes its way out to the outside, so you can see some of the gold outlining the tips of the cape as well as the sides. So like that's a soft rubbery plastic, so that's good. But there's very little to salvage this figure. And I'm trying to think, because of anybody that would tell you in the workforce, if you are to present somebody a problem, present somebody also with some solutions to the problem as well. You can't just come over and say, Billy's picking on me. Billy's picking on you, but what do you think should be done about it? Come back, throw back some solutions. So I'm trying to think of solutions that would fix this figure from being an otherwise terrible figure. For starters, I may have made the neck a little bit longer. I mean, it may have looked a little awkward, but at the very least you could see then the neck. The face I would have tried to stay with, and maybe just a little bit of paint could have fixed this up a little bit. And at the very least, I would have added some extra paint to the rest of the body, because it just seems like they didn't care. They just didn't care. Boy, oh boy, way to start off this review on a high. The posability on the figure is decent enough. You get the head. Let's see if I can bring the head a little bit higher up there. Fixed! No, it's not. The head rotates back and forth on a ball joint. You got universal joints on the arms. They rotate all the way around. Has a hinge on the elbow, which also allows the forearm to rotate. And you've got individual posability in the wrists. Upper torso ball joint. It's got a split on the legs. Top swivel cut on the thigh area, basically where it connects to the ball joint in there. And she's also got a hinge in the knee and a hinge in the foot. To top it all off, not only is the figure disappointing, but she doesn't stand very well. Case in point, that's why I brought in the display stand. I don't know really what's happening to her legs, but the one knee seems like it always wants to bend backward. I can't bring it forward, it just doesn't seem like it wants to be the case. So, we're going to go back. Tried and true, if it worked before, it will work again. Oops. And try not to bend. Oh, she also does have, I guess, an ankle pivot as well. Let's pick up the stand. Pick up the stand that we just dropped. There we go. Put the foot onto the display stand peg. There we go. And at the very least, now I can get her to stand. Twist the figure around here. There we go. If I did at all any ratings of these figures like I used to back in the day when I was a Wii reviewer, I don't even know what I would rate this one out of a 10. I probably would give her maybe a 3. I'm not going back to the rating system. I'm just throwing that out there just to let you guys know. So a really dismal presentation here of Batgirl. Let's have a look at Oracle and see if she fares any bit better. As we've already discussed, she doesn't have any sort of posability whatsoever. I don't really know how I feel about wheelchaired characters. Now, before you get heavily berating me down below in the comments section, let me finish off my point of thought here. I don't know how I feel when it comes to wheelchaired characters, whether they should have articulation or not. We've had instances where Professor X, for example, a wheelchair-bound superhero, super character, still had the means technically to have articulation, like the old Toy Biz figure of Professor X still had posability, even though of course you would likely display him still in the wheelchair. Oracle here is completely different, however. DC Collectibles has decided, well, we are going to have her in a wheelchair. That's the way that the character is. So maybe we just won't sculpt or add additional posability to her. She has like a ball joint in the upper torso, but she doesn't have a waist swivel. And just shy of the feet being able to move, that's all she can really do. I guess you could have it as if she's fallen out of the wheelchair, but I don't know how, again, I feel about it. She's destined to be in this wheelchair. That's how you're going to be displaying her. But do you think that she should have posability or articulation in her legs? Let me know down below in the comments section. The figure's face sculpt, again, we're going the route of this weird sort of plastic. I'm just going to move Batgirl out of the way just in case the focus is focusing on her. It's a weird sort of plastic that I would have the toughest of times of trying to describe what it's like. It's almost like satin porcelain. It's so lifeless of, well, life. I get no sense that there's anything happening to it. I don't look at this figure and think this figure has personality. I look at this figure as just being like a lifeless slab of plastic. Wow. The face sculpt isn't terrible. I mean, I don't even know what I dislike more. Her head sculpt or Batgirl's. Batgirl, I might go with Batgirl as being the worst head sculpt of the two figures here. At the very least, she has glasses. And the hair is at least of a nicer color, although it gets really dirty and dingy here via the extra coloring that they added to the ponytail. But there's something so lifeless, there's no heart behind this figure. It's like they wanted to make the figure and they ultimately did, but there's really no, I don't feel like they committed anything to this. The plastic is something that they really should get away from using, specifically this plastic. And at the very least, if you're going to use this plastic, this lifeless corpse plastic, at the very least go in and add some additional paint to it just so it doesn't feel as lifeless as this reviewer is describing it as right now. The coloring on the plastic, it's gray, it's yellow. It's got yellow in the shorts, but there's nothing vibrant. I think that's what I'm missing from these. There's no vibrancy to the colors that are being applied to the plastic. Arkham Knight and the Arkham series, the otherwise more of a modern, darker tone to them. But it's not to say that the plastic and the figures based on it has to be the same sort of dark, almost lifeless portrayals. I'm truly trying my best to find something redeeming about this particular figure. I guess, at the very least, there's not many oracles out there that come with the wheelchair. So, I mean, really, that's something. But that should not be enough to carry this particular box set. Posability on her head rotates all the way around. Doesn't look like she's got any sort of ball joint or anything swivelable in the pigtail or ponytail area there. Arms hinge outward. She rotates the arms all the way around. She also has a bend at the elbow, which allows the forearms to rotate and rotate at the hands. We'll talk about hands in a second. We've already talked about the torso, just a ball joint. And except for the legs, except for the feet area here, that's all she really does. Okay, so let's go back to the hands. She doesn't have any sort of interchangeable hands. And they've sculpted the hands in such a way that she's not sneaking up on somebody. She's not going to be sneaking up on anybody and scaring them. It looks like the hands are specifically designed to be on the wheelchair wheels, which is fine. I get that. But it's like, why couldn't they have given her some additional hands or something? It's almost like they just wrote off the fact that she's wheelchair bound, and therefore we don't really need to add a whole lot of extra things to it. As a side note as well, I think you can actually take the backpack and fit it over the back of the wheelchair if you want to display it like this. I don't think it has the necessary means to be able to be displayed around her arms, so you can just drape the, I guess just drape the backpack onto the back like that. And then you can go ahead and and add the earphones, which I guess maybe more so fits around her neck. Just like so. So I mean, you could do, I guess you can do that. Oh, and also, just before we wrap up this review, I'll just kind of have her sitting down. Let's have a look at the wheelchair. Can't forget the wheelchair. The wheelchair, surprisingly enough, I feel so mean for saying this, but the wheelchair is actually, may very well be the nicest aspect of this set. It's certainly not the figures. The front wheels do have moving wheels. Well, they are moving wheels. The back wheels obviously can spin. There's nothing really else that moves on the wheelchair. Everything else is basically just static plastic. And then we can go ahead and take Oracle and just kind of snap her into place. Not even really so snap her into place, but just kind of sit her in her chair. I really wanted to like this set. I really, really did. But at the end of the day, the set comes across so very lifeless to me. Of all the things that DC Collectibles and DC Direct, its original former company name, have released to figure form, one of my least favorite properties to ever review on this channel has always been the Arkham toy line, the Arkham video game line. Ultimately, I just don't find I've enjoyed the plastics that they've gone with. It seems to have gotten worse as the line has progressed. Some of the earlier figures weren't all that terrible, like the Bane, for example. I really did like the Bane, but I never really liked the designs from the Arkham games. And unfortunately, starting off so low with very little opinion of the Arkham game character designs, unfortunately then that translates to figures that I'm just otherwise not interested in. Trying to look at this solely with a blank slate and an open mind, I honestly can tell you I'm not a big fan of this set whatsoever. Both the head sculpts I think are poor, they just come across lifeless, and the plastic that they're using doesn't feel like it's the same sort of plastic that they're using for the other figures, like the Bombshell line, for example. If they are using the same sort of plastic, well, figure lines such as the Bombshell line, for example, does have better paint applications and have better expressions, and they feel like they have more life going for them than some of the Arkham figure line, whether it be Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight, Arkham City. I'm just not a big fan of this line whatsoever. But try to change my mind down below. Let me know what you guys think of this particular box set. Both Batgirl and Oracle, like I said, are sold together as a set and can be found at your local comic book store. I may say pick them up if you're a fan of Arkham Knight, the video game, but I really do think that these are some of the ugliest figures that DC Collectibles have released. There's just absolutely no life happening with either one of these figures. But like I said, let me know down below what you guys think of these particular figures. More videos will be definitely coming your way. If you guys haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button yet, make sure you do so. Many more, hopefully more positive videos, more positive videos will be coming your way, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.